Hey there, what we have here is a VideoMic ME, and it's made by Rode. So it's actually a fairly good quality beastie. And what you do is you plug this into, for this particular model, your Apple iPhone product, and it gives you much better audio. And then on the back, there's also a jack where you can have headphones. And my kids actually use this for music lessons. We found early on in the COVID epidemic with our online music lessons that the mics on phones just didn't cut it. But I happen to have one of these guys in my pile of stuff, so we gave it a go and it worked. Now, it worked until it didn't. I think my son might have the same interest that I do, in that I love to take things apart to see how they work, and or why they don't work. And this thing worked out great until it didn't. I'm not in a warranty situation because this was an Amazon return anyway, but we got about a year out of it. But I just wanted to show you, in case you're curious, what's inside. So up here, little mesh screen. I guess it's a little spit guard. And then just behind the spit guard, you've got a little mic here. And normally that's soldered to two leads, just a simple positive and ground. And then this whole middle cartridge unscrews and comes off. Now, this wire here, obviously, when that mic is soldered on at the end, you can't pull that through. And I think what's happened is this barrel part has come undone when they were taking the phone off their or taking the mic off their iPhones. And I think the wire has been twisted, because what's happened is we were having recorded sound cut in and out sporadically, and then it got worse and worse until just no sound was coming through. And I've taken my old multimeter and tested the connections, and it does seem that the lighter of these two wires must have a break somewhere along. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chase that break and probably replace this wire. I'm hoping that the break isn't right at the junction, but I've gone one step further, and I've split the back of this just to show you that if I am unfortunate and that break is further along in the meat of it, you can get in to this module. Now, to test my connections, where on this plug, I didn't know what's connected to what. I always have a pile of old earbuds that come from various places. And you'll note on here, this indicates that there's a microphone, because you see those 3 black lines. Normal headphones will have 2 black lines, and mono, there'll be 1 black line. So we've actually got 1, 2, 3, 4 possible channels here. And then I knew that the microphone was working on this one. So by checking continuity from these 2 contacts on this little microphone, I could map which of the bands connect to each. So that's how I was able to troubleshoot what was going on here and which one wasn't connecting up. Okay, time to chase the shorts. What I've done is I have just removed some insulation off this cable, and you see that smaller line in the center is surrounded by a mesh. So I'm just gonna extract that out, and then we're gonna check the continuity, see if we can find where the break is in that red line. Alright, so what I've done here is I've taken the sharp point of this probe and I've just lanced it right through the insulation on this red line. And I'm going to trace back to the tip here. And if you noted on my multimeter, it went from 1 to 0. And that means that there's full continuity on that section, which means the break is not there. Now, if I go down here to my actual plug, you'll note that the continuity doesn't change touching any of these four. I would have expected it to change on one of these first two. It doesn't. So that indicates that there's a short, a break between here and here, which is a bummer. Not surprising, but that's where the fail is going to be. And I'll just come over here to show you. If I touch here, I get partial continuity. It doesn't go right to 0. So I think what's happening is there's a break somewhere in here, and it's leaking a bit of current over. So this is full continuity. That's the correct place for this sheathing line. This is where the red is supposed to go to, but it's got an issue going on. So gonna have to go into here. Okay, I am well deep into this, but I've taken all sorts of insulation off this, and right here is the end of that little line, the red one, and you see it's not attached, and it looks like there's a little blob of solder right here. So it used to be attached there. So to remedy this problem, I can probably strip the insulation off here, tack some solder down here, and then use some spray plastic insulation, etc., and put this back together. But it looks like that right there is what was failing. Ta-da! See if I can fix it. All right. So I just stripped a little bit of insulation off the end of that guy, the red one, and that 0 would indicate there is no break along the line. So it is true, I believe, my dear Watson, that that end of this red line coming off that solder splotch there was the fail. So the nice thing is I can pull this through and get a little extra. I'll strip that off. I'll just tack that back on, and we'll do a quick test just by soldering these back on to see if indeed it'll pick up audio, and that should be well on the way to being fixed. All right, solder time. So just gonna get a little on there. Tin this little guy, and now probably not the right tip for this, but okay, that there is soldered back on, if it'll focus. And now we'll solder the little condenser mic back on to the 2 points, plug it in, see if it works. Stay tuned. Okay, I always take a photograph of what I'm taking apart because my memory's not so good these days. And what it says is that the red connection is closest to those little resistors. So red goes on, and black, by process of elimination and photo, goes Whew, tell you what, that exposed wire gets hot. Okay, so now I should be able to test this. And we'll see if it records. Okay, testing, 1, 2, 3. This is the microphone plugged in. Next step, I've just put all the bits and pieces back around. Not perfect, but my absolute favorite invention in the world is this stuff. The heat shrink tubes. If you've never used them, oh, they're so delightful. So you just squeeze them on like that. And I happen to have a little heat nozzle here. And all you do is apply some heat. And as a heat shrink tube would imply, it just shrinks down nice and tight. Alright, now that we've insulated with heat shrink, we can take the old barrel connector and we'll see if this will go back on. So we'll screw it in here, and I might have to pinch this in somehow to get that back on, but we'll get there. Okay, so in order to try and get this to fit back in, I did have to do a little bit of a trim here. There is still a split down the back. I'll come to that later. So I mean, it is not going to be as pretty as it once was. And now that this center tube is back on, I have resoldered this little fella. Focus. Hey, that little fella. And I think a little more insulation along here just to make sure we don't short out. What I really wish I had was that paint on black goop. It's liquid electrical tape. Would be perfect, but I don't have any. But actually I might have some acrylic paint. That might work just as well. We'll try that. I think I bought a tube of these little tiny brushes from Lee Valley years ago. Didn't know what I was ever going to use them for, but hey, look at this. Got an ancient thing of acrylic black. Acrylic's basically rubber, isn't it? It'll work. And if we just paint this up, what that'll do, give us at least a bit of short protection there. And it is not perfect, but as Granddad says, a blind man running for his life would be glad to see it. Okay, so microphone capsule resoldered. We've re-screwed on the little mesh spit guard. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to plug this into the phone, and I'm filming all of this on, and we'll see what happens to the audio. My hope is the audio will actually get better because we'll have a decent Rode microphone in play. Stay tuned. Hey, so can you hear me? If you can hear me, then I managed to fix the microphone. Ciao. Okay, the one last little bit that I had to do is, if you recall, there was a seam right here where I had cut it to open it. And I'm not sponsored by these guys, but I love this stuff. So this is a acrylate, like a crazy glue. And what's amazing is you fill a void with it, and then with the spray can, it instantly turns it into plastic, hard plastic. And then just a little wet sandpaper, and it fills that void perfectly. And yeah, so it's a little rough around the edges. It's not exactly perfect, but there you go. we are back to a functioning mic that is not going to unscrew now because that's all been crazy glued in. And Bob's your uncle. So don't throw things that don't work away. Figure out what the issue is and fix them. So that's $100 back in my pocket now. Enjoy.